Hi, I'm Ansel Van Horn, Chris's friend, and Chris is the only guy I know that's ever done a CrossFit WOD in a Speedo. But first, check this out.
I was in Split, Croatia, and I wanted to fly to Prague. I had never done that route before. I'd never been to Prague. And I'm like, hey, I wonder what airlines fly out of here. So I went to the Wikipedia page of the Split, Croatia airport. They have a whole list of every airline that flies out of there. So I'm scrolling through and I see this company called Smart Wings, which I had never heard of before. Turns out it's a budget airline that's out of Prague, and they had a direct route between Split and Prague. So all I did was, all right, Smart Wings, never heard of it. Let me see how cheap they are. I went to Smart Wings website and I booked, I think it was like a $35 flight between Split and Prague. When I went to Kayak to look at that same flight that Smart Wings didn't show up on, British Airways flight was, I think, $120. So I saved myself an easy $90 right there just by flying on something that I hadn't heard of 5 minutes before.
Alrighty, everyone, this is the Money Peach Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Peach, and I'm going to be bringing on some of the most amazing people I can find so they can tell you how they do their life and their money the right way. I am excited about today's episode, something very unique and very different. Now, the backstory here is a few months ago, I'm at a conference in Philadelphia, and a mutual friend and I, we end up going to a bar, and we meet this guy named Travis. Now, Travis, come to find out, is one of the top travel hackers in the world. Him and his wife have a blog, a website, a podcast. They've been doing this for years, and they're showing people all over the world how they can travel for next to nothing. Now, I've always been a big fan of save up your money, pay cash for vacation, which isn't a bad idea. But Travis takes that a step further and says, look, if you want to go on vacation, you should know about all the different travel hacks out there. And no, it's not just credit card rewards points. There's so much more to it that I was naive to until now. So you're going to really like this episode. If you're someone who wants to travel the world or wants to see parts of the world and you don't want to wait forever to get out of debt and save cash and do it the old-fashioned way, then you're going to really love this episode. So without further ado, let me bring on my good friend Travis Sherry, founder of extrapackofpeanuts.com, and just an overall amazing travel hacker extraordinaire. Here we go. What's up, Travis? Welcome back to the Money Peach Podcast. And the reason why I'm saying welcome back is for the listeners out there who don't realize this is the second time we're recording it because I forgot to turn my mic on the last recording. So thank you for coming back.
Oh, it is my pleasure. Like I said, I'd rather chat with you twice than once. So I consider myself lucky at this point.
We're going to have some deja vu, you and I, on this conversation. So I met Travis at a bar in Philadelphia, the Bottle Bar. We started talking a little bit about travel hacking. For those of you who've been listening for a while, you know that I'm Mr. Get out of debt, cut up your credit cards, save money, don't go and chase rewards points and stuff like that. So for Travis to come on the show, I always like bringing on somebody that has a different point of view, different worldview on how everything works. Now, him and I agree completely on just about everything. The one thing that I wanted to talk about, Travis, is travel hacking. But most importantly, travel hacking involves something that I'm a little weary of, and that's credit cards. But before we jump into this whole diverse conversation, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in becoming this travel hacking expert?
Sure. And I always say that I'm happy when people are skeptical or weary about it, because that to me means, like, I'd rather someone be skeptical about opening up credit cards and not just take me at face value and say, oh, I'm just going to do anything that Travis says, because that means they're thinking about it in a way, always err on the side of caution. So, and I'll tell you why that's important to me, because that is a bit of my story. When I was 27, I had no credit cards. I moved to Japan to teach English. And I wanted to travel quite a bit. I had never lived in Asia. I had never traveled to Asia at all. And, I also wanted to come back and forth to the US. So I started looking into how I could travel cheap. And I'm sure I Googled, how to travel cheap or something very similar to that. I stumbled across a few websites talking about frequent flyer miles and this idea of travel hacking, which actually wasn't in the lexicon at that time. The travel hacking the term came a little later. But I started learning about how people were getting frequent flyer miles through credit card signups and then using those credit cards to get more and more and more points. And I thought, no way. Like you said, this seems too good to be true. I'm sure there's a catch, this and that. So I was very cautious. I read and read and read and read. And now, thankfully, there's a lot of blogs and podcasts and stuff out there that make this stuff a lot easier, which is why I started my site. Because when I was doing this, I was in these really nerdy forums, Chris, like really, really nerdy forums, trying to figure it out. And it seemed like people were speaking a different language. So I took about 6 to 7 months reading everything I could about this before I actually got my first credit card, before I realized, all right, this seems legit. Let me give it a try. So I put a lot of time and effort in to make sure that it was something that wasn't going to come back and bite me. I got my first credit card, started to figure out how to use it, paying it off, obviously, every month, things like that. And then realized, okay, this is something for people who are cognizant of their credit and cognizant of the credit cards that they have and are paying it off. This is, I don't want to say a loophole because it's the system, right? But this is the system in place that the credit cards have determined. If you're good with your credit, you can make out like a bandit and you can get these frequent flyer miles and you can use them for free flights. And so that was 2011 when I started that. And in the last 7 years, we've probably racked up, we use so many, it's hard to guess, probably 3 million frequent flyer miles. We've been to 40 countries. If I had to put a big guess out there on how much we would have spent on those flights and how much we saved ourselves, I'd say easily over $100,000 in the last 7 years. And honestly, it's probably double that. So that's kind of how I got into it. I wanted to travel cheaper. I was living in Japan. I did a bunch of research. And at that point, no one was explaining it to the newbies. Like I had to, it was like learning a language, right? And so that's why I started my site, my podcast to say, okay, I don't know everything right now, but if I'm at a level 3 out of 10 and you're at a 0, I can teach you up to a level 3. And then obviously over the years, I've gone up and up and up. And now I'd consider myself, a big time expert in it. But it was always trying to help people who just wanted to start out and had those exact same questions I did when I was starting, get them there much quicker than it took me.
So a lot of times out there, I'll be talking with somebody and they say, I'm sticking it to the credit card companies. I'm their worst customer. They hate me because I pay off my credit card every single month and I'm getting all these free rewards, free miles. And I've always been taught there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's always something behind it. So with somebody who has, you said over 3 million frequent flyer miles, kind of explain to me like your thoughts on that when somebody has that reservation.
I would say that there is no such thing as a free lunch because someone else is paying for you to get those points. Now, here's the thing. It's not me. If I'm the one getting those points, it's not I'm paying off my credit card and I am quote unquote like the credit card company's worst customer, which I am because I'm paying everything off and I'm using those points. It's the other people who make this happen for me. So I don't want anyone in credit card debt. I don't want people to rack up huge debt and be paying all the interest and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is there are people out there who are doing it. Am I going to be able to save the world and save everyone who's, racking up that credit card debt? No, there's no way. So what I want to do is make sure, because I'm the one who's doing it the right way and paying it off, those perks are out there for me to take advantage of. If this system didn't work for the credit card companies, they wouldn't keep offering. So there's 3 or 4 or 5 other people who are paying the interest. That's how they're making their money. That's why they can offer these rewards. That's why what I try to do is make sure it works for me. And then anyone who wants to get into this, I make sure it's working for them as well. So I don't know if that makes sense, but essentially, if you want to put it in this way, I'm taking advantage of the opportunity that other people are affording me because they are racking up credit card debt. And that's just how it goes. So you'll notice in other countries, honestly, the system of travel hacking isn't as ubiquitous, isn't as prevalent as it is in America. That's because we have more credit card consumers. We have more people in credit card debt. And again, in a perfect world, no one would have that. But if there are people who are getting into those situations and they're offering these perks for people who are doing it the right way and treating their credit the way that I'm doing it, then I might as well take advantage of those perks that are out there for me.
Okay, so that makes sense. So I'm actually, as you were talking, I was looking it up. I'm reading right here that 31% of people who use credit cards, use them for reward miles or points or whatever it might be, 31% of those go unused. And so a lot of times when I'm looking at getting a credit card to get some kind of miles or something, I start wondering, will I even be able to use this? It seems like it's so complicated. There's these blackout dates. I might, go and get all these reward points and not be able to use them. And I think that's one of the fears people have. This is one of the fears I have is I'm going to put all this effort or time or, risk for me, for maybe someone who isn't the best credit card user. I'm going to go put that into this effort of creating a mile system, and I might not be able to use it. What would you say to somebody just sitting down and asking that conversation with you?
Yeah, and I would say this even goes back to your last question. Again, it's not just people who are racking up the credit card debt who the credit card companies are relying on to be able to give people points. It's also, as you mentioned, this huge chunk of people who are earning the points and then not using them. So for every person who sits there like I do and make sure I'm using these points and getting these fights, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 people who are getting the points like you mentioned and then not using them. So that's the other part of it, right? Like the credit card companies are making out. And I'm trying to say, hey, if you're someone who wants to stick it to the credit card companies, if we want to use it that way, I don't think of it as a confrontation, but you might as well, if you're getting these points, be the 1 out of 4 people who's actually using them right. So to get to the heart of the matter and saying, well, yeah, how do I use them the correct way? Because I think a lot of people have earned them or understand how to earn them. That's kind of the simple part, right? Hey, here's how you can earn them. But the hard part comes with how do I use them? And I think a lot of people listening probably are sitting there saying, yeah, I tried before and it didn't work and it was confusing. And so I gave up. And that's ultimately what the credit card companies want you to do, which is why they make it a little difficult in the beginning on purpose. Because if you don't use them, then they don't have to pay that out. So they're gaining your loyalty for giving you nothing, essentially. So what I would urge people to do is make sure you're getting the points that are the easiest and best for you. Every situation is different, but thankfully there is a currency, and I always think of it as currency, right? Like a US dollar is a currency, a Canadian dollar is a currency, an Australian dollar is a currency, Japanese yen is a currency. Same with miles and points. Chase points are a currency. American Airlines miles are a currency. Hyatt hotel points are a currency. So think of it like that. They're all, and if you put that in your head, you're realizing they're all different values. So you want to make sure you're getting the one that has the best value and that's the easiest to use. And right now, far and away, the one that I recommend to almost every single person who comes through my door and is asking me what's the best card to start with, it is something that's going to earn you Chase Ultimate Rewards points. And without getting too deep in the weeds, the reason those points are the best is they're the most valuable because you can use them as straight cash. So I can go to Chase's travel portal and it looks exactly like it would look if you went to Kayak or Expedia or any of those things that you go to book flights on. Those are called OTAs, online travel agents. It looks exactly like that. And I can say, hey, I have 50,000 Chase points and I can use them as cash to book any flight in the world, any rental car, any hotel, because it's simply tied to a dollar value. So it's 1.25 cents for every point I have. So if I have 50,000 points, I'm getting $650 worth of whatever travel I want, flights or rental cars or anything like that. So that's a really easy way to use it, Chris. That's the simple way to use them. And it's a great way because there are no blackouts, because you're just paying as if you were going to buy a ticket on your own, except you're paying with your points. So you're using them as cash. The other benefit of Chase points is that you can transfer them to travel partners. This is where it gets a little more difficult because this is where blackout dates and stuff do come into play, like you mentioned. But you can transfer Chase to United, for example, if you want to take an international flight. And those 50,000 or 60,000 points, if I transfer them to United, 60,000 points is enough to get me a round trip ticket to Europe. Now, there will be blackout dates, but it's not tied to a value. So if I took a Philadelphia to London flight and it was $600, that's 60,000 points. But if I took a Vancouver to Prague flight and it would cost me $1,200 out of pocket, that's still 60,000 points. So you get a little more value sometimes when you transfer them to travel partners like United or like Hyatt hotels, but it's a little more difficult. But the reason ultimately I love Chase points is you can do it both. You can go the easy way and use them as cash, or you can learn how to transfer them to travel partners once you kind of get an understanding of how that works.
So Trav, that's a good point. That was one of the things that really opened my eyes when we were having a conversation a few months ago, is you were telling me about, so I live here in Phoenix, Arizona. And so Southwest Airlines is really big here in Phoenix. So out of all the airlines out there, Southwest probably has the most routes for us to travel. So most people here in Phoenix, if they have a rewards credit card, it's usually a Southwest credit card. So our business is ran through they call it the Southwest Rapid Rewards Plan. Now, my thought, and I know now it's changed a little bit, but my thought was, well, since I live in Phoenix, I should have a Rapids Rewards credit card through Chase because that's what we'll travel with. That's what we'll fly the most because it has the most options. But after talking with you, you kind of explained how that doesn't necessarily make as much sense as if you said going with the Chase card. So I remember you kind of broke down for me 3 different ways cards earn rewards or earn points. Can you kind of walk us through that so it kind of makes sense to me even more of why maybe the Southwest card isn't my best card?
For sure. So there are 3 types of points. Those are airline miles, and that is exactly what you just talked about with Southwest. And that is when a credit card company and an airline get together and they have a co-branded credit card. So it's called the Chase Southwest card or the Citibank American Airlines card. And so if we use Citibank as an example, their Citibank American Airlines card means you earn American Airlines points. Those can only be used to book through American Airlines. So you're tying it to a certain airline then. Okay, so every time I swipe my Citibank card, I get 1 American Airlines mile. So it's not bad, and it certainly works, especially if, like you said, with Southwest, you're in a big hub for Southwest or a big hub for American Airlines. So that's great. The second way is a hotel credit card, and that works exactly the same as the airline credit card, but instead you're getting hotel points. So there's a Chase Hyatt card. So every time you swipe that card, you're getting 1 or 2 Hyatt points. Those can only be used at Hyatt hotels. So that's pretty straightforward. The best way, though, is when you earn these things, the third way, which are called bank rewards points. And this is when you earn Chase Ultimate Rewards points or American Express points. And the reason that those are so awesome, and we'll use Chase as the example, is like we said before, they're not tied to a specific airline. So if I have Chase points, I can use them as cash, as we mentioned, which is great. But I can also transfer them to travel partners. So again, you can transfer to United, you can transfer to Hyatt, you can transfer to Southwest. So in your example, you have this Southwest card and you get Southwest points, and that's great for flying Southwest around Phoenix and from out of Phoenix. But if you want to go to Europe, you can't use those Southwest points to go to Europe because Southwest doesn't fly to Europe. Instead, if you were using a Chase credit card that got you Chase points instead of Southwest points, you now would have these, every time you swiped, you get these Chase points. And what you could do is you could transfer them to Southwest, same as if you use the Southwest card. So you transfer them to Southwest, and now you have Southwest points and you use them to fly. Great. But if you wanted to fly international, you could transfer them to United, or you could use them as cash. So the beauty of the Chase points and these bank rewards points is that you have versatility. You can use them on certain airlines, but you don't have to. You also have all these other options. And that's why when we were talking, I said to you, hey, the Southwest card is fine, but you can get a card that can earn you the same amount of points, and those can always be transferred to Southwest, so you're not giving up any ability with Southwest. But if you want to, they can also be transferred to something else, or they can be used as cash. So it's what you're already getting plus a bunch of other options.
Okay, so that makes sense. So my next question is, I have the Chase Southwest card. Do I cancel it? Do I get rid of it? Or what do you recommend for somebody that's going to move over to something that's going to give them more bang for their buck?
Yeah, so the biggest misconception, one of the biggest, there's a few misconceptions around the idea of credit cards and travel hacking, but one of the biggest is that when people go to open a new card, they always think that they should cancel the one that they already have. And in most cases, you actually don't want to cancel the one that you already have. You want to keep the one you already have open and open up a second one. Now, and here's how it works. And I'm not telling you to open up 50 at a time, but I'm saying if you're in Chris's situation, you have a Chase Southwest, okay, you set up for auto pay, you've been paying it off, that's great, and you want to get one that gives you more bang for your buck. Keep the Chase Southwest one open. And the reason you want to do that is your credit score is going to stay higher because every time you go to check your credit score, there's a lot of factors involved, but one of them is average age of account. So Chris, if you've had that Southwest card for 5 years and now you open a new one, you have 2 cards. One is 0 years old, one is 5 years old. So your average age of account is 2.5. But if you close that Southwest card and now the only one you have open is your one that's brand new, your average age of account is 0 because the only account you have open is that brand new one. So it's going to keep your average age of accounts high. It's also going to do a few other things for your credit score. So usually what I would say is keep that one open that you've had before. You don't even have to use it. Set it to auto pay so that in case it gets used or billed by something that you have set for recurring, you're not missing payments. So set it to auto pay and then simply open up a new card and start using that card as your everyday card. But keep the one that you originally had open. That's going to help your credit score. And again, if you set it to auto pay, you don't have to worry about it. You can put it, I have a bunch of cards like in a shoebox, like literally a shoebox in my office that never get used, but I keep them open because it keeps my credit score high.
So we're going to put links into a product that I currently use through our business called Debitize. It's free, and Debitize just turns your credit card into a debit card. We actually had them on the show a couple months ago, and so it's pretty neat. We'll put links in there on how it works, but it turns your credit card to a debit card. You never miss a payment, and it pays it off in full every week for you, so you don't have to worry about doing that. And like I said, it's free. So moving on though, Travis, the next thing I have is some of the things that really blew my mind when we were talking was how you are able to score such cheap flights. And so when I'm thinking about booking a trip, always the first thing I look at is what are flights? And I've seen that, I think that's most common for people is they look at getting there. And then once they're there, they look at accommodations. So starting with step one, tell us how you're getting these crazy cheap flights. Like I'm on your website right now. It says, we scored a $5, plane ticket. How is this happening?
Yeah, so I use like a 3-pronged system here for getting cheap flights. The first one is what we already talked about. It's the frequent flyer miles, and it's using those miles to get super cheap flights. That $5 ticket that you're referencing, I was down to Rio for the World Cup, whenever that was. It's actually a little while ago now. But what happens is when you use frequent flyer miles, you're paying only the taxes and fees on that flight. So sometimes it's $5. Sometimes it's, if you're going to Europe, it could be $50 to $75. But that's in lieu of paying whatever, $600, $800, $1,000. So frequent flyer miles, which we've already talked about, that's a huge, huge way to get cheap flights. And I would say probably the number one way that I use. But there's 2 other things that I do. The first is I always am on the lookout for mistake fares or just really, really good tickets. And so mistake fares are pretty self-explanatory, but essentially sometimes something happens in the systems, whether it be an airline system or an OTA, which again is Expedia, Orbitz, in their system. And these really crazy deals come out, like $125 round trip to Italy or $225 round trip to Spain. I booked a $300 round trip ticket to South Africa. Like these things come out here and there. So when they do, you want to make sure, usually that they try to pull them or they try to fix the problem within a day or less. So usually when this stuff happens, or it's just a good fare, like I just booked 2 days ago, a $330 round trip ticket to Croatia from Philly, which would normally cost me like $900. So it wasn't a mistake. It was more of a, hey, this is a super cheap route. They put it on sale for some reason. It was gone. That sale was gone in like a day. So when these things happen, again, you want to act quick and you want to be able to make a decision really quickly. So for years, people would say, hey, Trav, can you just let me know when this thing happens? And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, I have all these friends asking me to do it. So eventually, after, I won't bore you with the whole story, but it's like an entrepreneur's journey, right? After 4 years, I had an app. I co-founded an app with another friend of mine, and we've got an app on the App Store and on the Google Play Store. And the whole idea is that when these deals come, you pick your airport. So Chris, you pick Phoenix, maybe you pick Vegas, maybe you pick LA, because you're like, hey, if a deal is cheap enough, right, I'm willing to go there if I can get a $300 ticket to Europe or something like that. So you pick your airports, and whenever a really good deal comes from there, so think something 40% off or more, we send you a notification right to your phone. Boom, you click it. You get the deal, you see what it is, and if you want to book it, you see the dates, you can just hit book, and you can literally book a trip in 3 minutes or less from when you found out about it, which is the idea. It's supposed to be quick and speedy and this and that. So that app is called Jetto, Jetto. People can download it for free. And that's one way. The second way that I use to get cheap flights is just when a good deal's out there, you act on it and you get it quickly. The third way is by using budget airlines. And in the US, we don't have a ton of these, but there's a lot of them in Europe and there's a ton in Asia. And a budget airline is simply an airline that is usually cheaper for the ticket price, but then will, of course, charge you for like checked bags, and they'll charge you for food, maybe entertainment. You have to rent an iPad. They don't have movies, all this stuff. So it's more of an a la carte option than it is when you travel on a regular airplane. And budget airlines are awesome. They don't always show up in your Orbitz and Kayaks and Google Flights because the airlines have to pay to show up in those search results. And so if you're a budget airline, you're doing everything you can to save money and to make your actual ticket prices cheaper, you're not going to pay to show up in those results. So you have to know where to look for budget airlines. And I'm telling you, there's a ton of them. So I don't know them all. I certainly cannot claim to know every budget airline in the world. So what you want to do is use a website that every single person listening has been on before, and that's called Wikipedia. And so what I do when I'm in a new airport and then I've never been there, I don't know what budget airlines are flying out, I go to the Wikipedia page of that airport. So I'll give you an example of one that I booked a couple years ago. I was in Split, Croatia, and I wanted to fly to Prague in the Czech Republic. I'd never done that route before. I'd never been to Prague. And I'm like, hey, I wonder what airlines fly out of here. So I went to the Wikipedia page of the Split, Croatia airport, and I just looked. They have a whole list of every airline that flies out of there. It's great. For every airport I've ever looked, they have a list of all the airlines that fly out of there. So I'm scrolling through and I see this company called Smart Wings, which I had never heard of before. Turns out it's a budget airline that's out of Prague, and they had a direct route between Split and Prague. So all I did was, all right, Smart Wings, never heard of it. Let me see how cheap they are. I went to Smart Wings' website and I booked, I think it was like a $35 flight between Split and Prague. When I went to Kayak to look at that same flight that Smart Wings didn't show up on, British Airways flight was, I think, $120. So I saved myself an easy $90 right there just by flying on something that I hadn't heard of, 5 minutes before. And all I did was go to the Wikipedia page of the airport. So that's kind of how you find those budget or hidden airlines. So just to recap, 3 easy ways to find flights: frequent flyer miles, which we talked about, using the Jetto app to get mistake fares and cheap flights, and then also using Wikipedia to find the budget airlines of the airport you're flying out of.
All right, so I'm on the website for each of those. So on your website, extrapackofphoenix.com, at the top it says Jetto. We're going to put links to both Travis's website and to the link to get the app. But it looks like you can search in the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. Search, is it just Jetto, Jetto?
Right. Yep. That'll come up in any of the app stores that anyone's on. Yep.
Okay. So search Jetto. And then as you were talking, I was going through the process where I went to Wikipedia and then I put in Split, Croatia airport, and it popped up. It's Smart Wings is alphabetically. And it's pretty cool. I'm on their website now. And yeah, you can't find them on Kayak or Expedia, but then they have their own website. And that makes sense that, they're a budget airline. They don't have the marketing dollars to pay Expedia or Kayak or any of these Travelocity type sites. So that's something that I would never have thought about until having this conversation with you. That's flights. Now let's go into something that really piqued my interest, was accommodations. So I think 10 years ago, if you would have told me that Airbnb was going to be like really, really popular, I probably would have laughed at you. I would have been wrong. But you're doing that, but you have a couple other travel hacks that you told me about that completely blows my mind. And I want you to share it with our audience because I think it's going to be really, really surprising.
Right. Sure. 10 years ago, I wish I had known Airbnb was going to be that big, and I would have tried to weasel my way in and invested in some way. Airbnb, huge, has taken off. I assume most people know it, but we were using it a long time ago to rent apartments, and that was one of the ways we got accommodations cheaper than what is normally done, especially by Americans. Is I'm going to go to a hotel and I'm going to pay, $150, $200, $250 a night. That adds up very, very, very quickly. The things that we do instead of hotels, or in lieu of hotels sometimes, or in lieu of paying for hotels, is one, you can get hotel points. Just like we talked about frequent flyer miles, hotel points work the same way. So we've been able to stay in some incredible properties because I don't have anything against hotels, and I love being pampered. I just don't want to pay the money for it, right? So we stayed in a $1,000 hotel in Paris because we used hotel points. It was a great experience. I'm certainly not going to drop $1,000 a night on it, Chris, right? Roger Federer was there. Sure, he's going to spend $1,000 a night. Me, I'm going to use my points and stay there for free. So hotel points are one way to do it. And I always recommend do the miles and frequent flyer miles first, because to me, flights are harder to get, and it's better if you can get them cheaper because there's less options, right? With accommodations, there are a variety of options. We're going to talk about those right now. But after you get your frequent flyer miles, start looking at hotel points as well. So that's one way, using hotel points for free hotel rooms. The second way that I like to use is to do something that I always think a lot of people know about it, but then I find out that's not true, especially when we talked, and that is house sitting. And house sitting is a super easy concept. It's been around forever, but it's only started to get a lot of traction in the travel world, I would say, in the last 3 or 4 years. And with house sitting, essentially what happens is someone needs someone to come and look after their house, right? And maybe that's because they have pets and they're going on vacation. They want someone to watch their pets. Maybe they want someone to water their plants. Maybe they just want someone to be in their house to keep it up and running and things like that. Essentially, they put a listing up on a house sitting website. So Trusted House Sitters is a huge one. You say, all right, I'm going to go away. I want someone to look at my house. You put your listing up. Then people apply for this listing and you get them to come and be a house sitter. Typically, the person who's coming doesn't pay at all and you don't pay them. So it's usually an even swap. Hey, I'm going to come stay at your house and look after your house. I'm going to get it for free and you're not going to pay me and I'm not going to pay to stay here, which is awesome. And I love that because why not have this happen? If you have a house sitting there and it's not being used, why not allow someone to stay there for free if they're taking care of something? So I love the idea behind it anyway. So I've done this around the world. One of the best experiences I had, and this was the first house sit I ever got, was when I was in a 5-bedroom mansion in Breckenridge, Colorado. We were overlooking, it was ski in, ski out. Now, it wasn't in ski season, but it was right there on the mountain. We were overlooking the town. We had a hot tub. We had a BMW to drive around. And my wife and I house sat for this lady, Noreen, for a whole month. She was going to London because her husband was living there for some reason. He was working there. So she's like, I need someone to look after my 2 dogs for a month. So there we were in this awesome mansion in Breckenridge, Colorado for a month, just getting to live there for free and enjoying it. And all we had to do was take care of her 2 dogs. So house sitting is an amazing way to see the world and to end up in places that you honestly probably could not even afford to pay for if you wanted to. I have friends who have been doing it for literally 5 years. They go from house sit to house sit to house sit. I think they paid for accommodations in 5 years, less than 10 nights. And they have done fantastic properties like castles, literally castles in Paris. They were in a penthouse in Manhattan next to Mayor Bloomberg. They've been able to score some incredible places that you never would be able to have if you're actually even paying out of pocket. And it's completely free. So house sitting is a phenomenal way for anyone. And I should say, too, it runs the gamut. It can be a weekend trip, maybe you're house sitting for 2 days, or it can be, as long as up to indefinite. I have friends who are house sitting for a couple in Honduras, and I think that they're going to be there at least 6 months. So they're house sitting on the beach in Honduras for at least 6 months. So it's all types of properties all around the world, all lengths of times, things like that. But it's a great way to get your accommodations for free and to have experiences that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, that just blows my mind. I'm on your post right now. We'll put links to this exact post in here. How I ended up in a 5-bedroom mansion in Breckenridge with a BMW and a hot tub with pictures. And I see pictures of the dogs as well. So we'll put a link to that. One thing I did not mention that I think it's important for you to mention, Travis, is you're a family of 3, correct?
Yes.
So you travel with your child.
Yes, that is fairly new for us. He's 1 year old. So we've been out there in the last year. He has been on 15 flights, I think, down to Florida, Nashville, out to Colorado. He's been to Texas. He's been to Budapest. He's been to Mallorca in Spain. We're going to Colombia in January, and then we're going up to Mexico. So yeah, we take him with us, man. He's not staying at home by himself, not yet.
So, but the reason why I wanted to bring that up is I think so many people out there were probably thinking, oh, it's just Travis or Travis and his wife. And, it must be easy to travel. And I think it's hard to travel with a 1-year-old. And the fact that he's been all over these places, just you're proving to people that, look, if you want to travel, there's no excuses. You have the resources to do it, even if you have children.
One of the things that people would say to me before we had our little guy was, all right, well, that's cool. Better get it all in before you have kids. But they were the same people that were saying that to me, 10 years ago and saying, all right, it's cool. Better get it in before you get a real job. All right. There's always better get it in before blank. And now people are saying, oh, well, better get it in before he's 6 and has to go to school. And I'm sitting there thinking well, I don't know what's going to happen when he goes to school. There's a lot of options out there. I don't know which one I'm going to take. Maybe we do stay at home and he goes to a regular public school here. I don't know. The point is it's been great to have a kid because now I can at least answer back to that and say, well, we are doing it. And yes, our travel changes a little bit. And maybe we travel slower and maybe we travel a little less than before, but it's still possible. And so it's kind of nice to be able to answer those naysayers, and as he gets older, continue to check those things off of like, oh, now he's in school. Okay, well, here's how we decided to do it. So there's always ways to do it, whether money's the obstacle to traveling. We touched a lot about that. That's what our site's all about, how to essentially do it for almost free so that you don't have to spend a lot of money. But any obstacle you have in your way, there's a person out there who's gotten past that and done the traveling.
Travis, I could go another hour to 2 hours talking about this because I love traveling. I love being proved wrong by someone. And the whole time you're talking and you're sharing some of these, I'm like, no, I had to mute my microphone because I wanted to. I'm like, no, he's right. I have no rebuttal. But for those of us who, this is going live on Thanksgiving Day. So those of us who are thinking about traveling or maybe in the new year, we want to have a little more leisure, more travel. That's something that we want to do. You have something for us that I think is really, really cool. And it actually is tomorrow. So share with us what you got going on.
Yeah, so talking about you would be able to go for another hour or two. If people are interested in this and you're interested in this idea of how you're going to travel, and we're going to deep dive into the stuff that we kind of did on a surface level here. So if you listen to this podcast, you're like, that was really cool. I want to know more information. You could obviously go to our site and read our 400 blog posts, or you could go and listen to all 370 podcasts we did. Or once a year, and this is great that it's coming out right in time for this, we do a travel hacking masterclass, and we do it on Black Friday. And the reason we do it is because I think the best gift someone could give themselves or their family is this gift of travel. And so for 3 hours, I do a live session from 11 a.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern on Black Friday, where I go through a whole presentation of every single thing that I know about travel hacking. And so if you're someone who's sitting there, it's like, all right, I was a 0 before this podcast, and now I know like a 1 or 2. We're going to get you and level you up to like a 7, 8, or 9. In 3 hours, so that you don't have to spend this time figuring it all out on your own. So we do that once a year. Again, it's on Black Friday, so it's tomorrow when this is coming out. And one of the cool things we also do as part of that is we have a Q&A at the end, and I stay and answer any single person's questions. So if you're new to it and you're like, well, I'm going to have all these questions, totally cool. Come. I will answer every single question you have. We also give you the replay of it because I know when people sit there through it, for 2 hours, like, whoa, that was a lot. My mind's blown. But, I have to process all this. You get the replay. You can watch it anytime. You get all my notes. You get everything you could need to really make this a part of your life. And so we do it once a year, always one of my favorite days of the year. And so that is coming up on Black Friday, our Black Friday travel hacking masterclass.
All right, we're going to make it really easy for you guys. If you go to moneypeach.com/Travis, moneypeach.com/Travis, or in the show notes, we'll have a link to that. It'll take you to that site where you can register for that webinar. I would highly suggest doing that because your other choice is going out and spending a bunch of money on Black Friday, or you could be one of those that stay home and say, you know what, I'm just going to learn how to save money and travel. And so as you can tell, Travis definitely is a travel hacking expert. Travis, I wish we can go on and on, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. This was awesome, especially the second time around. You were a gracious guest to come on and do this twice. Super appreciate you. Be safe out there traveling all over the world. And I'm going to be following you on Instagram because you post everything where you go.
Yes, we do. So thank you guys. It was a pleasure to come on again, Chris. If you guys want to follow us on Instagram as well, it's just @PackOfPeanuts. And the more people out there who are traveling, the better. And so that's our mission, is to get you guys out there and traveling. So if you have questions, let me know. You can find us at extrapackofpeanuts.com. And if you hop on the Black Friday Masterclass, I will see you live there in, I guess at this point, a couple hours. So excited to do that and excited to be on the Money Peach podcast. So thanks for the opportunity, Chris.
Thanks for coming on, man. God bless, brother.
Cheers.
And just like that, we wrap up another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. All the show notes, the links, anything that Travis and I talked about can be found over at moneypeach.com/session121. That's moneypeach.com/session121. And as always, I just want to say thank you from me to you for supporting the Money Peach podcast. If this is an episode that struck a nerve with you, if you like it, if this is something that you want other people to hear so you can go travel with them, please do us a favor and share this. There's a link in any of the podcast apps that you use. Send this on over through a text message, through an email. Let other people know about the Money Peach podcast. This helps us grow. It helps other people out there learn about money, learn about travel hacking, or whoever else we might bring on. So once again, guys, just want to say thank you so much for listening to the show. Have a great week, and God bless you. Boom,